police chase in southwest Missouri ends with a suspect taking his own life. We'll have the latest. Plus, why students in Nevada will have to start wearing a mask in school, and a look at how the pandemic is hurting local charity organizations.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 5 a.m. I'm Tanya Bach. Coming up this half hour, Pitt State goes on the road to take on D1 opponent Stephen F. Austin. We're going to look back at Saturday's game. And the CDC is urging Americans to avoid large gatherings for Thanksgiving this year. For our Something to Talk About, we're asking if the pandemic will change how you celebrate Thanksgiving. You can also chime in our Insta-Poll. Just visit KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. But first, a check on your forecast.
Bustling metropolis of Nacogdoches, Texas. Is that where we're headed?
Sure.
You've been there, right? To Stephen F.?
No, I haven't. Not Nacogdoches, Texas.
One of my best friends left there as the all-time leading scorer in basketball.
Oh.
Yeah.
Is that close to Nacogdoches, Louisiana?
No, Nacogdoches, Texas.
Then nope.
Stephen F. Austin.
Never been there.
Remember the Alamo? No, Nacogdoches, Texas.
Okay.
There's a Nacogdoches, Louisiana?
Mm-hmm.
They stole it from us then. Current conditions outside the Freeman Health System sky camera where we sit at 37 degrees right now. Look at that wind chill though, only feels like it is 30 degrees. Let's go 39 in Monette, 40 in Chanute, and 36 in Nevada. Clear Skywatch storm tracker. We'll call sunrise on the bus stop forecast right at 6:59 this morning. Just a skosh before 7 o'clock high. Clear skies. Is going to be a little southwest breeze, 10 to 15 miles per hour, as the jet stream, once again, beginning to get a little north-south movement instead of that flattening out that it had at the end of last week. At the same point in time, still going to be able to cruise into the low 60s, and look at this Skywatch storm tracker future track. Well, you can't get any better than that for the beginning of a week. Everywhere from overnight lows in the 30s, which is to be expected, and a warming trend all the way up into the 70s by the time we hit the end of the work week. Kids were giving me a hard time. Kids were going, Dad, we're sweater vests. It's mid-November. We haven't seen you bust it out. You know, they were busting my chops about it. I knew it was going to warm up this week. I knew this would be the coldest day of the work week.
Yeah, it's pretty much one of the, well, maybe tomorrow you can get away with it.
I said, all right, boys and girls, this is how we roll. You know why? Our incomparable producer Nathan knows why. Who made the sweater vest cool? National champs did. He hit me back with an I-O right there.
Wow. All right, we'll take that. Although in the studio here, you can wear a sweater vest any day because it's always like sub-zero temperatures in here.
That's a Doug Hetty thing, and you can take it up with him. I just work for the dude.
All right, thanks, Michael. Well, a 27-year-old Webb City man is dead after firing shots at officers before turning the gun on himself. Jasper County Sheriff's Office says the incident began in Carterville around 2:20 p.m. when an officer attempted to stop a Hummer that had been reported stolen. The driver led police on a chase before crashing. Authorities say he then exited the vehicle and ran to another residence, accosting a citizen and taking his car keys. Speeding west on Highway 171, the suspect ended up driving the wrong way around the roundabout at Stone's Corner, causing a number of collisions. He eventually crashed near the intersection of Prairie Flower and 171, where he fled on foot and attempted to hide under a tractor trailer on the parking lot of a business. The suspect fired at officers as they began to surround him. He then fired a second shot, resulting in a fatal self-inflicted injury. He was pronounced dead at the scene. No officers or deputies were injured. A crash in McDonald County claimed the lives of 2 Springdale, Arkansas residents on Saturday. Missouri State Highway Patrol says the accident happened around 10 a.m. after 53-year-old Telney Helson's Toyota Corolla began skidding on the wet road, moving into the southbound lane and into the path of another car on Missouri 59. About 2 miles south of Missouri 90 in Knoll. Telney and his passenger, 42-year-old Marciana Bodrick, died on the scene. The other driver and passengers involved in the accident, all from Neosho, escaped with minor injuries. The Nevada R5 school district will implement a mask mandate for grades 6 through 12 starting today. School officials made the announcement yesterday afternoon. All NHS students must wear masks before entering the building and will remain masked while in all classroom settings. Students who forget or lose their mask will be supplied with one. Any student who fails to comply with the mandate will be sent home immediately. COVID-19 is putting a financial strain on families, and while many nonprofits are trying to help, a new study is released from the Better Business Bureau shows charities are struggling too. The study shows that from March through August of 2020, support for charities has fallen by 5%. BBB says there's a number of factors causing the decline. In addition to more people being strapped for cash, officials say folks are choosing to donate to their friends and family over larger charity organization. The Joplin Salvation Army can attest to that, and they say financial support has dropped. The nonprofit also says it's also having trouble finding volunteers, seeing a decrease in bell ringers. Chilly on a cold day, and Hideout Harley-Davidson in Joplin took advantage of people's appetites to help out a cause close to their hearts. Hideout hosted a chili cook-off, inviting the community to put their cooking skills to the test for a small entry fee of $5. Customers judged the dropped-off samples, and the money raised goes towards the Bikes for Tykes fundraiser, providing bicycles for kids at Christmas time.
This is the first year that we've done it. We wanted to do something a little bit different this year, as opposed to like just doing a toy run. And then we partnered with the Children's Haven in Joplin to see how many bikes we could get for all the kids for Christmas.
About 22 bikes have been donated so far. If you'd like to help, bikes or money can be donated until December 22nd. Well, after severe storms moved through the 4 states over the weekend, one town in Arkansas is now facing the aftermath from a confirmed EF1 tornado. Several families in Romance, Arkansas spent their Sunday morning cleaning up after that tornado touched down late Saturday night. Mercedes McKay shows us the extensive damage the storm left.
5 homes destroyed and almost a dozen more are damaged here in White County after an EF1 tornado hit the area on Saturday night, leaving families like the Coughlins left to rummage through what's left behind.
We didn't have no warning. There was no warning.
Described by some as a storm that sprung up on them.
Whatever it was here and gone so quick.
The tornado that touched down late Saturday night left families in Romance, Arkansas to experience the unimaginable.
All this was on top of her.
Carolyn Coughlin found her mom buried underneath the roof and walls of her own home.
It was really hard seeing my mom lying there, helpless.
Carolyn's mother was one of the 4 injured and 2 rescued in White County.
So far, from what I understand, everybody's doing better today. I won't say okay, but they're doing better today.
Tamara Jenkins, White County Emergency Management Director, was called a little after 1 a.m. to survey the damage.
There was reports of missing people, property damage, houses destroyed.
Sheds were torn apart, homes were rolled off their foundations, and children's toys were found scattered throughout the yard.
It was a very concentrated area of damage. It's not very widespread.
While the storm's path stuck to 4 main roads, the city of Romance rallied together to help pick up the damage piece by piece.
When somebody has been affected by a disaster, big or small, the neighborhood comes together, the community comes together, and they get it done. They take care of people.
Bad weather can happen at any time, and remember to always have a plan in place for your family before a storm approaches. It's 5:07.
You ever been to Romance, Arkansas? I have not. Been there too. Got stuck there one time on my way to Austin, Texas. It's a story in and of itself. High around 62 today, sunny, southwest wind 10 to 15 miles per hour, gusting up to 25 to 30 miles per hour. And look at this warming trend we have. We're going to hit the 70s by the end of a calm week, and then we'll hit thunderstorm activity just in time for the weekend.
That's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, an alternative Thanksgiving.
Health experts are concerned the Thanksgiving holiday could lead to a spike in COVID-19. I'm Naomi Rockham with how to celebrate safely and protect your most vulnerable family members.
Plus, a look at new CDC guidance for wearing masks. And the Arkansas Razorbacks face off against Florida in some Saturday night football action. We'll have highlights. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back.
Pittsburgh State went into the weekend 1-1, coming off of a win off of Missouri Western, where they beat the Griffins 20-7. But over the weekend, Pitt State had a little bit different opponent. Went on the road to face a Division I foe, Stephen F. Austin. First ever meeting between the Gorillas and Lumberjacks. And while the Gorillas only trailed 13 at the break, could not find the end zone in the second half. The final score 26-7. Jalen Martin, though, 9 receptions for 118 yards. Now, Pitt State wraps up its fall schedule next Saturday on the road once again, going all the way to Canyon, Texas to face good old West Texas A&M. On the Division I level, Arkansas Razorbacks, they were 3-3. They were coming off an 11-point win over Tennessee last week, trying to get above 500. Now, here's the interesting thing. They were facing 6th-ranked Florida on the road. They were doing it without their head coach. So former Missouri head coach, now defensive coordinator, Barry Odom was on the sideline for Arkansas. But it started off with offense. Felipe Franks, who used to play at Florida, hit Mike Woods for a 47-yard score right out the gate. And then it was over. and then it got ugly. Kyle Trask looks like he's playing a video game lately. Trask had 356 yards and his second consecutive game with 6 touchdowns. That's right, second consecutive game with 6 touchdowns. Now, Arkansas kind of went back and forth, but honestly, if you watched any of this game, you were just hanging on, hoping this thing would end, so you could watch the Crawford-Kell fight after this thing was over, because the second half just got nasty. The final score, 63-35. Pittsburgh State men's basketball team making its season debut as the Gorillas opened the year at home against Tabor College. It's an exhibition contest. Pitt State enters its 4th season under head coach Kim Anderson. First possession of the game, Antonio Givens down low. Ooh, little baby hook. Givens had 15. A few possessions later, Gorillas in transition, Bobby Arthur Williams. That's a tough finish right there. Williams had 19 points and 8 rebounds. About midway through the first, Jack Taylor with the steal. No! Get it out of here! Quentin Hardrick. What a block. Ensuing Gorilla possession, Ike Moore to Zach Birch in the paint. Gorillas go up by 18. Time winding down the first. Ryan Pippins to Martin Votes. Corner 3. Why stop? Why stop, Martin? Don't stop. Second half. Warren Douglas. Boom. Game high 22 for Douglas. Pitt State wins this thing 109-49. Still to come on the KOAM Morning News, a look at the latest efforts worldwide to combat climate change and a check on our 7-day forecast when the KOAM Morning News returns. I got us behind schedule on the Monday morning, so we're past 5:17. That's my fault. 37 degrees is where we stand right now. Look at that wind chill. Only feels like it's 30 right now in Joplin, 39 in Monette, 37 in Oswego. Let's roll 35 in Pittsburgh, but a beautifully clean Skywatch storm tracker. As far as the bus stop forecast, we're going to roll sunrise at 6:59 over Joplin. Going to be a great morning for the kiddos. Just a little bit cool. Not yet quite 50 degrees by the time that we get to 9 a.m. But from our weather trend, you're going to see we'll see the 60s here later on. And that's a trend that we are going to continue to roll as we're going to incrementally increase our temperatures all throughout the work week on the 7-day forecast, eventually reaching up into the 70s by the time we get to Thursday and Friday. This morning on the KOAM News Now Facebook page and our morning Insta-Poll, gathering with family for Thanksgiving, it's an American tradition. Okay, let's talk about this year. Because health experts warn even small get-togethers could be risky for spreading coronavirus. Naomi Rockham explains the safest ways to spend the holiday.
The Franklins have a long-standing tradition of all gathering together to celebrate Thanksgiving.
Normally we have 30, 40 people in our house.
But this year, with elderly grandparents and loved ones with health conditions, the family is opting for a Zoom Thanksgiving.
We figured we could do breakout rooms. The kids could have their own space. The men could have their own space. People could break into groups just to talk about different topics.
How to celebrate without spreading the coronavirus is weighing on many families. Dr. Helen Boucher is with the Infectious Diseases Society of America.
The safest way to celebrate Thanksgiving is virtually. So with our immediate family, the people with whom we live, and keeping the group small. I think if people do that, we have a much better chance of staving off and dealing with the surge that we're seeing now.
Small outdoor dinners with family and friends who live in your community is considered moderate risk. Large indoor gatherings with people not from your household, high risk.
The highest risk is being indoors in a poorly ventilated space with a lot of people who are not covering their face. That could set up a perfect storm.
If you are planning to travel for Thanksgiving, doctors say it's critical to wear a mask, wash your hands frequently, wipe down frequently touched surfaces, and try and keep your distance if possible. Even with their modified plans, this family says they have plenty to be thankful for.
Even though it's not safe to be together indoors, being able to be together, that is enough, I think.
They hope other families also choose to keep each other safe this holiday. Naomi Rockham, CBS News, New York.
So those health experts also advising you to avoid Black Friday shopping. All right, our question to you on the KOAM News Now Facebook page: will the pandemic change how much you celebrate Thanksgiving this year? That's also the question for our Insta-Poll. Go to KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. It's probably no coincidence Healthwatch is after this.
Topping Healthwatch this morning, it's been touted as one of the best ways to stop the spread of COVID-19. And now the CDC says there's even more reason to wear a mask. Mandy Gaither has more on the agency's new guidance.
Please, wear a face covering when you go out in public.
Now the CDC says wearing a mask can help protect you, not just those around you. In new guidance this week, the CDC says masks act as a source control to block virus particles exhaled by the wearer and provides filtration for personal protection by blocking incoming infectious droplets from others. The agency cites a number of studies showing that masks reduce the risk of transmitting or catching the virus by more than 70% in various instances.
My message to you is wear your face covering, and if somebody around you isn't wearing their face covering, let them know that they're putting you at risk also.
Leading health experts say if Americans would consistently wear a mask, keep up with social distancing, avoid crowds, and wash hands, the country will be much better off in the war against COVID-19. For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
CDC also says masks with multiple layers of cloth with higher thread counts have shown to be more effective at preventing the virus's spread compared to single layers of cloth with lower thread counts. Well, a new study finds COVID-19 patients have an impossible death rate 2 times higher than that of flu patients. Researchers in Seattle say the higher mortality rate was independent of patients' age, gender, or severity of illness while in the ICU. A new research suggests children under the age of 2 who take antibiotics are more likely to have health issues ranging from obesity to food allergies. Researchers at the Mayo Clinic say children receiving multiple antibiotic treatments were more likely to have multiple conditions later in childhood. People with type 2 diabetes are at high risk for fatal heart attack or stroke. Researchers in Spain found that 93% of these patients were at high risk or very high risk of these conditions within a decade. Doctors say quitting smoking and drinking, adopting a healthier diet, and exercising more can help lower that risk. That's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News.
That whole mask thing scares me because I can't buy sheets with the right thread count. Now I've got to worry about a mask with thread count. Oh no. Yeah, I don't have a chance. Sunrise at 6:59 this morning. It's a cool morning. It's not too bad. We're going to have a whole lot of sunshine. A little southwest wind gusting up to 25 miles per hour. Future track stays clear. Warming trend this week, all the way into the mid-60s by Wednesday and 70s to finish out the work week. More KOAM morning news right after this.
Good morning, I'm Tanya Bach with your KOAM news update. A 27-year-old Webb City man is dead after firing shots at officers before turning the gun on himself. He led police on a chase, causing multiple collisions and ultimately crashed his vehicle. Police say he fired at officers before shooting himself. No officers or deputies were injured. The Nevada R5 school district will implement a mask mandate for grades 6 through 12 starting today. All NHS students must wear masks before entering the buildings and will remain masked while in the classroom settings. Students who forget or lose their mask will be supplied with one. And the Carl Junction Police Department has kicked off its Shop with a Cop campaign for the holidays, and they need your help. They'll be buying toys for a record 390 kids this year. Donators can drop it off at the Carl Junction Police Department or call the department to have it picked up. Here's Michael with today's forecast.
A little bit cool today, but I tell you what's going to happen is we're going to have a delightful middle of the month here. We're looking at temperatures that slowly rise into the mid-60s by the middle of the week and even the 70s by the time we get to Thursday and Friday. We need a little rain, and that will eventually emerge by the time we get to the weekend. Of course, all the latest on the Skywatch weather app.
A police chase in southwest Missouri ends with a suspect taking his own life. We'll have the latest. Plus, why students in Nevada will have to start wearing a mask in school, and a look at how the pandemic is hurting local charity organizations.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 5:30. I'm Tanya Bach. Coming up this half hour, something to talk about this morning is about Thanksgiving, and we want to know whether or not the pandemic will change how you celebrate the holiday. We also invite you to participate in our Insta-Poll. Just visit KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. But first, a check on your forecast.
Well, Tanya, right now are saying it changes nothing. That's our leader, clubhouse leader. 44% of you saying it changes nothing. Freeman Health System sky camera in Joplin, where it only feels like it's 30 degrees. Now the temperature is above the freezing mark pretty much throughout the entire 4 states, so I want you to think that anything's dropped below that. 32 in Miami, 39 in Monette, and 35 right now in Pittsburgh with a very clean Skywatch storm tracker. The bus stop forecast, sunrise over Joplin, 6:59. Gonna kind of be a slow warm up. You'll notice we don't even hit 50 degrees by 9 a.m. and you can tell by the jet stream we're starting to get a little north-south action, and that's going to be a little bit of a cool Monday, and we'll go low 60s, about as good as we're going to see. But I tell you what, as far as what we have on the horizon, we've got a major warming trend here in the middle of November that eventually is going to jaunt us up into the mid-60s by Wednesday, and then we're going to roll 70s on Thursday and Friday. Next shot for rain, some much needed rain by the way, Saturday and Sunday, and a little bit of a cool down there for the end of the weekend as we drop down from about 70 to 64 from Saturday to Sunday.
All right.
But we're needing some rain.
It should be
The weekend was nice, but it was a quick hitter. We knew it was going to fly through. And so, yeah, we need a little bit more to catch up.
good temperatures this week, though. We can't complain about that, that's for sure.
No, temperatures were fine. Like I said, it would have been nice to have a little bit more of a soaker, but I was actually out in eastern southwest Missouri, and I know that it was much more prolonged than what everybody had out west.
Did anything come of the tornado watch that part of the area was in?
No, it stayed down to the south. It stayed down to the way south of us, I always be concerned.
Yeah.
Always be concerned. So I'm not going to say I wasn't concerned.
Watchful. Tornado watchful.
I wasn't worried.
All right, thanks, Michael. A 27-year-old Webb City man is dead after firing shots at officers before turning the gun on himself. The Jasper County Sheriff's Office says the incident began in Carterville around 2:20 p.m. when an officer attempted to stop a Hummer that had been reported stolen. The driver led police on a chase before crashing. Authorities say he then exited the vehicle and ran into a residence, accosting a citizen and taking his car keys. Speeding west on Highway 171, the suspect ended up driving the wrong way around the roundabout at Stone's Corner, causing a number of collisions. He eventually crashed near the intersection of Prairie Flower and 171, where he fled on foot and attempted to hide under a tractor trailer on the parking lot of a business. The suspect fired at officers as they began to surround him. He then fired a second shot, resulting in a fatal self-inflicted injury. He was pronounced dead at the scene. No officers or deputies were injured. The Nevada R5 school district will implement a mask mandate for grades 6 through 12 starting today. School officials made the announcement yesterday afternoon. All NHS students must wear masks before entering the buildings and will remain masked while in all classroom settings. Students who forget or lose their mask will be supplied with one, and any student who fails to comply with the mandate will be sent home immediately. Several family-owned restaurants are filing a lawsuit against St. Louis County Executive Sam Page over COVID-19 restrictions that take effect early this coming week. Ray Preston reports in Webster Groves, Missouri.
Here at Olive and Oak in Webster Groves, cars are lined up to pick up their orders curbside. With a ban coming on indoor dining later this week, many restaurants say this is going to be a huge financial blow as they move into one of the most important times of the year. It's a Saturday night and the diners are starting to arrive. The reservation list is full. Co-owner Mark Hinkle has 4 restaurants and a huge event space, which can't hold huge events right now. During the pandemic, loyal customers have continued to show their support, but the upcoming tighter restrictions will be tough.
We have 130 employees between the 4 restaurants and the event space, and curbside can't support all those jobs. So that's the biggest concern.
These new restrictions come as the county has added an average of more than 700 new cases every day this week. That's the highest weekly average since the beginning of the pandemic. But Hinkle says precautions are in place.
Restaurants not operating in the way that they're supposed to be can certainly be bad and could certainly cause super spreader events, etc. If you're running at 25 to 50% capacity, you're wearing masks, you're doing all the things that we're doing and a lot of our colleagues are doing, it's safe. It's certainly no more dangerous than going to the grocery store.
Some diners have been using carryout more than ever just to support area restaurants.
But we've tried a lot of different restaurants and restaurants that are new and that we haven't necessarily been to before just for their carryout and try to help them out.
Restrictions will be affecting area churches, limiting gatherings to no more than 10 people. Some have been moving toward in-person gatherings again. Others have had only online services for months.
We want to try to keep our people as safe as possible.
The Reverend Tommy Pearson is the pastor of the Greater St. Mark Family Church in North County.
I am discouraged. I mean, I have been out of the pulpit for almost, 7 or 8 months.
These tighter restrictions will go into effect in the county at 12:01 a.m. on Tuesday. They will remain in effect for at least 4 weeks, at which time they will then be reevaluated.
Restaurants filing suit claim Page's restrictions are overreaching. COVID-19 is putting a financial strain on families, and while many nonprofits are trying to help, a new study released from the Better Business Bureau shows charities are struggling too. The study shows that from March through August of 2020, support for charities has fallen by 5%. BBB says there's a number of factors causing the decline. In addition to more people being strapped for cash, officials say folks are choosing to donate to their friends and family over larger charity organizations. The Joplin Salvation Army can attest to that. They say financial support has dropped. The nonprofit also says it's also having trouble finding volunteers, seeing a decrease in bell ringers. Well, maybe the chilly weather has you looking for a bit of a warm up, and these kids have got the right idea. Exercising indoors over at Everybody Fitness. It was all part of the gym's Fall into Fitness Kids Day event. And besides games, there was also face painting, arts and crafts, and more. Organizers say that keeping kids active is especially important around this time of year.
Our goal here is just to get kids active. So statistics prove that kids who are active are 50% less likely to get the flu.
Staff says all gym space and equipment is disinfected on a regular basis. And that's a look at our top news stories coming up this half hour on the KOAM Morning News. Jesse Irwin tells us about the foster closet.
Well, the foster closet in Columbus, Kansas supports local foster children in the moment that they need it the most. Coming up, we're going to learn about its annual Christmas giveaway and how they help those kids make their way through the process.
Plus, a shoe belonging to the last Queen of France goes up for auction. We're going to tell you about the price this 18th century piece of footwear fetched. But first, it's 5:37.
Sunny in the 60s, no worries today. A little bit cool, but look at that warming trend that we're going to have all the way in the 70s by the end of the work week. We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News right after this.
Say the record number of storms this season is connected to the climate crisis. Evidence is not in the storm's numbers, but in their power. President-elect Joe Biden insists the climate will be a top priority for his administration. As Roxana Saberi in London reports, America's allies say there's no time to waste.
With sea levels rising, wildfires raging, and wildlife threatened with extinction, several world leaders are welcoming President-elect Biden's pledges to protect the planet.
The European Union stands ready
to work together in the fight against climate change, Mr. Speaker.
There I see common ground.
Now there is considerably more hope.
Environmental lawyer Michael Gerard and his team at Columbia University have tracked more than 160 rollbacks of environmental regulations under President Trump.
There was a whole host of actions that the Trump administration took to encourage fossil fuels and discourage renewables. I think we'll see a reversal of that.
Mr. Biden has promised to rejoin the Paris Climate Agreement aimed at cutting greenhouse gases to slow global warming. He's also proposed a $2 trillion plan to move the U.S., the world's second biggest emitter, to clean energy, like electricity from the wind and sun.
By 2050, the United States will be 100% clean energy economy with net zero emissions.
But he'll likely face fierce political opposition at home.
It looks like the Biden administration will not have a cooperative Senate, and that may slow things down. But there's still a lot of tools in the toolbox.
Like what?
The government can require cleaner cars, cleaner trucks. It can require more energy efficiency in appliances and equipment.
That would help the U.S. cut its greenhouse gas emissions, aligning it with the European Union, Japan, South Korea, and China. They're already pushing ahead with plans to reach net zero emissions over the next few decades. Energy analyst Dave Jones says the world needs to know that the U.S. will take climate change more seriously.
America's 15% of all of the world's carbon emissions, so it's a critical part of the puzzle. So this is a global problem that needs a global solution.
And he says there's no time to lose. We all need to work together, fast. Roxana Saberi, CBS News, London.
According to a recent scientific reports study, the world has passed the point of no return for global warming. A climate model shows that even if greenhouse gas emissions were reduced to zero, temperatures may still continue to rise for centuries. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson is self-isolating after coming into contact with someone who has the coronavirus. Johnson was admitted into the hospital earlier this year after testing positive for COVID-19. But this time, a spokesman for the Prime Minister said on Sunday Johnson is doing well and is not showing any symptoms. Peru's interim president, Manuel Merino, has resigned just 5 days after taking power. In a national address on Sunday afternoon, Merino announced he has made the decision to step down. This comes after days of violent protests following the impeachment of former President Martin Vizcarra. Merino called for peace and unity while insisting that nothing would disrupt the presidential election scheduled for April of 2021. A shoe once belonging to Marie Antoinette is hitting the auction block this weekend. Last Queen of France's silk shoe had a starting price of more than $11,000 because it hit last weekend. It sold for $50,000. Marie Antoinette is largely known for her reputed extravagance. She was the wife of King Louis XVI and was infamously executed alongside her husband, during the French Revolution. It's pretty slipper. That's a look at some of your biggest headlines from around the world. Let's toss it over to Michael for our something to talk about.
Great thing being that she probably never said let them eat cake. It was a phrase as a question. It was, why don't they eat cake? Showing her ignorance as far as what the peasantry in France was going through at that time.
I thought she did say it, but they were referring to the ashes, like the crud that was left over. Cake was not a positive thing.
No, it was. Yet she didn't understand why they didn't eat cake. Yeah.
I heard a different story.
Yeah, because she was part of the bourgeois. KOAM News Now Facebook page this morning, Thanksgiving being an American tradition. Let's go to the Insta-Poll. Let's do that right now. So our question, how much will the pandemic change how you celebrate Thanksgiving this year? And right now we've got 40% of you saying it's not going to change anything. And it's interesting, we've got 38 saying it's going to change it a lot. It's just kind of neck and neck right there. I find that really interesting, and we're going to keep this open all morning long. You can also log on to our Facebook page. Let us know what you have to say. Go to KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. We'll be back with the news you need to know before you head out the door right after this.
Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. The Nevada R5 School District will implement a mask mandate for grades 6 through 12 starting today. School officials made the announcement yesterday afternoon. All NHS students must wear masks before entering the buildings and will remain masked while in all classroom settings. Students who forget or lose their mask will be supplied with one. Any student who fails to comply with the mandate will be sent home immediately. COVID-19 is putting a financial strain on families, and while many nonprofits are trying to help, a new study released from the Better Business Bureau shows charities are struggling too. Study shows that from March through August of 2020, support for charities has fallen by 5%. BBB says there's a number of factors causing the decline. In addition to more people being strapped for cash, officials say folks are choosing to donate to their friends and family over larger charity organizations. A 27-year-old Webb City man is dead after firing shots at officers before turning the gun on himself. The Jasper County Sheriff's Office says the incident began in Carterville around 2:20 p.m. when an officer attempted to stop a Hummer that had been reported stolen. That driver led police on a chase, causing multiple collisions and ultimately crashing his vehicle. The suspect fired at officers as they began to surround him. He then fired a second shot, resulting in a fatal self-inflicted injury. No officers or deputies were injured. President-elect Joe Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris plan to deliver remarks today on their long-term plans for the country. President Trump continues to make unfounded claims that the election was rigged and refuses to concede. In an interview on CBS's 60 Minutes, former President Barack Obama said President Trump should have conceded the day after the election, or 2 days at the latest. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
Start to our morning, but by the time it's all said and done, we'll be up into the 60s, and look at this warming trend that eventually puts us in the 70s by the end of the work week. Be back with more KOAM Morning News right after this. Our morning Facebook and Insta-Poll question: if the pandemic is changing how you celebrate Thanksgiving. Michelle Pacini says, husband and I at home, fixing a plate to bring to mom, play it safe, she says. Kenny Kimmel says, not changing my plans at all, but I have no plans that involve large gatherings. I would hope that if people are planning a large get-together, they'll at least practice good hygiene and wear a mask around people they care about. Becky Mingarelli says, our family will be having Thanksgiving outside this year, cooking non-traditional foods over an open fire. How cool. Oh, wait. No, I just got put on the spot. I'll be fine, Becky. It'll be fine. KOAM News Now Insta-Poll question right now says we're changing as we go. It was changes nothing just a second ago, and right now we're up to 47% of you say it's going to change a lot. Go to KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. Over to Jesse in Studio K.
Well, there's a reason they call it the season of giving, and this morning I'm fortunate enough to be joined by Becca Williams, who is one of the most giving individuals that I think I've spoken with this year, just because of what you do with the Foster Closet based out of Columbus, Kansas. So do you mind explaining for people what the Foster Closet is and how it all got started?
Absolutely. How it got started is my husband and I received a call asking if we would take in some foster children. We had just finished potty training our last child, and so we didn't have anything, and several of our friends got together and gave us their baby items. We got cribs, car seats, clothes, so that really helped us as we were welcoming 2 children into our home who didn't come with very much at all. And so we were looking for a way to give back, and I partnered up with some friends who were doing the same thing, and the Lord just opened doors, and we are renting a 2,300 square foot space in Columbus, Kansas. It's organized by size and gender. And we have everything foster kids need when they come into care. Sometimes they don't come into care with very much. Sometimes literally the clothes that are on their back. And so it allows us to give them things that are theirs as they have a lot of uncertainty in their life. So they can come pick out underwear, socks, shoes, jeans, coats, sports gear if they're into sports. Wow. We have everything that they need as they adjust to their new foster family.
And so what does providing something like this to a child in foster care do, right? I mean, clearly it's a very fragile moment in their lives when they need to be put into foster care. So what does providing them with shoes or providing them with a backpack or, whatever it may be, how does that help them?
It helps them. I mean, there's a lot of ways. Everything in their life just got flipped. I mean, that's a pretty big trauma. So they've got taken away from their bio family. They've got taken away from their normal and placed with strangers. And sometimes they're able to stay in their community, but a lot of times, due to limited foster homes, they're not. And so they are taken to a new side of the state or a new school. And so it kind of gives them something that's theirs. This backpack is mine and nobody can take this away from me. I don't have to leave it behind when I leave. This is mine.
All right, well, I understand, the Foster Closet giveaway is, a Christmas giveaway is happening, and I want to learn about that. I also want to learn about the fact that A, you are in a classroom as we talk right now, and B, you're a mother of 9. I've got a lot more questions for you, Becca, so don't go anywhere. We're going to have more conversation with Becca Williams on the KOAM Morning News. We'll be right back after this.
Really in store for a good-looking Monday here in the 4 states. Sunshine, low 60s, about really where we'd anticipate being this time of year. Southwest wind will pick up, cool overnight, but now we're going to warm up. More KOAM Morning News right after this.
A police chase in southwest Missouri ends with a suspect taking his own life. We'll have the latest. Plus, why students in Nevada will have to start wearing a mask in school, and a look at how the pandemic is hurting local charity organizations.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News at 6 a.m. I'm Tanya Bach. Coming up this half hour, Guitar Center files for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. We'll have the latest. And because of the pandemic, Thanksgiving may look a bit different this year for some people. For something to talk about, let us know if the coronavirus will change how you celebrate Thanksgiving. You can also participate in our Insta-Poll at KOAMnews.com/vote. But first, a check on your forecast.
It's 2 interesting ones right there, Tanya, because number one, we've done the Insta-Poll before about people picking up new hobbies and instruments during the pandemic and found out it was on the rise. And so I'm curious to hear that first one. I didn't realize that. And as far as the second one, I'm no John King over here, but as our Insta-Poll, every time I look at my computer screen, the votes are changing back and forth in between one extreme to the other. Changes nothing for Thanksgiving to it changes a lot. Yeah, it's been crazy. Go to KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. Let us know what you think. Now let's talk a little weather. Freeman Health System Sky Camera in Joplin, 37 degrees. We're actually warming up a little bit. Now remember, when we get to sunrise, we'll see that little dip, but we're slowly getting there. 35 in Pittsburgh, 34 in Neodesha, 39 in Monette. No freeze warnings, frost advisories, nothing like that. Skywatch Storm Tracker remains clear. Sunrise over Joplin will be at 6:59 on the bus stop forecast with clear skies. Southwest winds going to pick up. We'll go 10 to 15 miles per hour, and you'll notice the jet stream a little more north to south than what we had last week, and that's the result of some cool weather, but really right on par for where we'd anticipate this time of year, as we'll be in the low 60s. Now, future track is going to be pretty mundane. We're going to be dry, but we're going to warm up. Look at this, mid-60s by the time we get to Wednesday, 70s for Thursday and Friday. Much needed rain finally appearing when we get to the weekend. And hopefully we can kick out that rain. Looking ahead to next week, going to cool down a little bit, but traveling for Thanksgiving, if you're on the road,
Right.
looks like it's going to be pretty good.
Not too shabby.
No, not at all.
All right. We'll look forward to a good week. It should be nice.
Like I said, this is...
I'm just glad I'm not camping again this weekend.
This is amazing. This is one of the most interesting Insta-Polls we've had since we started this, just because it's here and here. There doesn't appear to be any middle ground with this morning's question.
Interesting. Back and forth. See how it plays out.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, Michael. A 27-year-old Webb City man is dead after firing shots at officers before turning the gun on himself. The Jasper County Sheriff's Office says the incident began in Carterville around 2:20 p.m. when an officer attempted to stop a Hummer that had been reported stolen. The driver led police on a chase before crashing. Authorities say he then exited the vehicle and ran to another residence, accosting a citizen and taking his car keys. Speeding west on Highway 171, the suspect ended up driving the wrong way around the roundabout at Stone's Corner, causing a number of collisions. He eventually crashed near the intersection of Prairie Flower and 171, where he then fled on foot and attempted to hide under a tractor trailer on the parking lot of a business. The suspect fired at officers as they began to surround him. He then fired a second shot, resulting in a fatal self-inflicted injury. He was pronounced dead at the scene. No officers or deputies were injured. Newly released video shows the suspect drag a Moore, Oklahoma police officer as he tries to flee in his car. It happened after officers stopped him. Christine Stanwood has the story.
Out of the car. Some tense moments after a Moore police officer dragged by this man, 37-year-old Dustin Schumann. So here's what happened. Early Wednesday morning near Northwest 12th and Norman Avenue, a Moore police officer contacted Schumann, who has previous felony convictions.
I know you got a previous gun charge, right?
Right.
I'm all good. Okay. Is there a gun down here?
I'm here to talk to my girlfriend, that's it. At times, Schumann claims to be reaching for his phone. He pleads with the officer.
Can you open up this door for me?
Whoa. I'm gonna call my attorney. The officer gives him one final command before he removes him from the car, but that's when the officer found the gun.
Listen, I've dealt with you before, man. I just want to make sure. Told you.
I'm not doing nothing with it, okay?
Gosh, dang, get out of the car now.
Please.
Get out of the car.
Please.
Get out of the car, or I'm gonna make you get out of the car.
After several commands, the officer tried to arrest him. Schumann then put the car in drive.
Get out of the car. Come on.
And dragged the officer before taking off.
Go get him. Jeep Renegade. He just took off. There's a gun in the car.
Schumann later crashed that same car. Well, the Nevada R5 school district will implement a mask mandate for grades 6 through 12 starting today. School officials made the announcement yesterday afternoon. All NHS students must wear masks before entering the buildings and will remain masked while in all classroom settings. Students who forget or who lose their mask will be supplied with one. Any student who fails to comply with the mandate will be sent home immediately. COVID-19 is putting a financial strain on families, and while many nonprofits are trying to help, a new study released from the Better Business Bureau shows charities are struggling too. Study shows that from March through August of 2020, support for charities has fallen by 5%. BBB says there's a number of factors causing the decline. In addition to more people being strapped for cash, officials say folks are choosing to donate to their friends and family over larger charity organizations. Joplin Salvation Army can attest to that, and they say financial support has dropped. The nonprofit says it's also having trouble finding volunteers, seeing a decrease in bell ringers. Carl Junction Police Department has kicked off its Shop with a Cop campaign for the holidays, and it needs your help. The CJ Police Department reached out on social media saying they've got their longest list of kids to shop for in the program's history. They'll be buying toys for 390 kids this year, and while they have a lot of faithful donors, they're hoping a few more four-staters will join the club. Anyone who wants to make a donation can drop it off at the Carl Junction Police Department. You can also give them a call, and they'll come directly to you to pick it up. You can find that number in the story on our website at KOAM newsnow.com. Well, through the looking glass, a retro shop in Joplin held its second swap meet for the year with about 13 vendors taking part in yesterday morning's gobble swap. The owner, Lucas Sarakian, says after having a successful swap meet back in September, there were requests to have another one, so he obliged. Sarakian also says he wanted to have the swap meet before the holiday season to give people a chance to make a few bucks or find that perfect present.
You know, a lot of times before holidays, people like to clean out their closets or the toy boxes, make room for obviously new things to come. It's always nice to be able to make a couple extra dollars for the holiday as well. And so we're hoping to kind of help people do both of those things.
Through the Looking Glass plans to have another swap meet in the spring. The 12th annual Holiday Craft Fair in Pittsburgh looked a little different this year. A total of 22 vendors set up outside the Pittsburgh Farmers Market Pavilion selling Christmas items, holiday gifts, and food. Vendors wore masks, booths were socially distanced, and sanitation stations were made available. There was even a socially distanced photo op with Santa and Mrs. Claus. The event typically has around 12 vendors out, but because it was outside this year, more people were able to take part. Entry fee to the fair was one non-perishable unexpired food donation that will then go to the Wesley House Food Pantry.
Our give back to our community. I love this event because we're doing something for the community and during the holidays for the children and for the less fortunate.
Holiday Craft Fair was held a month early this year to avoid the cold weather. Well, Richards, Missouri native Everett Forkner receives the livestock industry's highest award, the 2020 Saddle and Sirloin Portrait. This award was established in 1903 and served to recognize key leaders in the livestock industry. Forkner's family farm in Nevada consists of 2,000 acres of crops, a swine genetics company, premium pork marketing branch, and a purebred cattle operation. Along with this honor comes the establishment of the Forkner Livestock Judging Fund at the University of Missouri and the Forkner Family Visionary Leadership Fund to support programs of the National Junior Swine Association. Quite an honor there. 6:07.
Cool morning, temperatures in the 30s right now, but we'll have plenty of sunshine. Be able to make it in the low 60s. Pretty seasonable for this time of year, but check out that warming trend. Mid 60s by the middle of the week and eventually 70s before we get to the weekend.
Let's look at your 7-day forecast and today's top stories. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News, concerns of a holiday surge.
Total coronavirus infections have surpassed 11 million in the U.S. alone. I'm Bofta Imam in Washington with what health experts recommend as the Thanksgiving holiday approaches.
Plus, why local butchers are struggling to keep up with deer season. And our very own Jesse Irwin tells us about the Foster Closet.
You don't have to make a financial contribution to make an impact this holiday season. Coming up, we get the details behind the Foster Closet's Christmas giveaway. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back.
In Money Watch this morning, the Chevy Bolt is under recall. General Motors says the batteries in the 69,000 of the electric vehicles can catch fire. Problem is in the models from 2017 to 2019. So far, there have been 5 reported instances with 2 people suffering smoke inhalation and 1 house set ablaze. Engineers are still working on a permanent fix. Safety regulators recommend parking the car outside until a temporary repair can be made by the dealer. Hey, your car can catch on fire. Well, Guitar Center says it's filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection, but plans to stay in business. USA Today reports it's negotiated a deal with investors and lenders to reduce its debt. The company has about 300 Guitar Center stores and more than 200 music and art stores. It's hiring a real estate firm to optimize that portfolio. Butchers are backed up on work across the 4 states trying to keep up with demand for meat as deer season gets underway. KOAM's Kate Kelly shares why hunters may have a hard time finding a processor this year.
Robert Anderson loves the thrill of the hunt, but finding a place to take his buck is becoming harder as the years go by, especially in 2020.
They're busy with hogs and cattle and things, you know, the traditional things that people raise around the farm. So it's just not a thing they do anymore.
Clouds in Carthage is one of the remaining meat processors that still handles deer, but even they have their limits.
Kind of the bad thing this year When we reach what we did last year, about 1,200 head, we will have to shut deer off because I've already got my beef and my pork customers booked and I can't move them. There's nowhere to move them to.
That's because demand on butchers is at an all-time high. Clouds is booked through January of 2022.
I've never seen anything like it. And so a lot of it is pretty well typical, kind of, I call it, like toilet paper, because everybody's wanting to book. Everybody's afraid they don't have anything and, not going to have meat.
The holiday season isn't slowing anything down, and with so many of the major meat processing plants either closed or operating on a partial basis due to COVID-19, more customers are turning to their local butcher.
We normally sell some smoked turkeys. We don't have time to make them and we can't find them. And we're still going to do some hams. But we're changing what we do because we're so busy with other stuff that we can only do so much.
Cloud says he expects things to get better in January, especially after a COVID-19 vaccine becomes available. He's telling his customers to hold on and wait for openings in the meantime. For now, Anderson and others like him will likely be on the hunt for a butcher.
Everybody's afraid of the virus, and everybody, a lot of people are worried about that CWD. So there's just a lot of organic dangers, I guess, in processing wild game right now.
In Jasper County, Kate Kelly, KOAM News.
Missouri Department of Conservation has suspended mandatory chronic wasting disease sampling requirements for hunters, and you can read more about this by checking out the link we've shared in this article on our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. That's it for Money Watch. Here's Michael with our Something to Talk About.
Telling you this morning on the KOAM News Now Facebook page in our Insta-Poll, asking about your Thanksgiving plans amidst the pandemic and whether COVID-19 is changing any of them. Greg Horn says not changing a thing. Family is small and in contact with them daily. Greg says it's safer than going out. Will Patriot says absolutely not, as in not changing anything. I will be continuing our family tradition, and we will be gathering as a family this year and every year that follows, regardless of what the CDC, Fauci, Gates, or any other entity says. Will says this nonsense has to stop. Catherine Ortiz says we have cut down having a large number of people for Thanksgiving. However, this is great. We will be delivering dinner to some of those that we normally invite because they don't have family. That is tremendous, Catherine. Thank you. Let's get to Guy's comment. Guy says, sick and tired of sick behavior. Even the wannabe president can't keep from touching his face and mask. I'm going to go down here where he talks about Anthony Fauci. He says, sorry, Tony. Apparently Anthony hasn't pumped his own gas or pushed a shopping cart around Wally World, with us, quote, smelly Walmart people, for at least 40 years, so he's a little out of touch with normal human behavior. As far as our Insta-Poll goes this morning, it's been back and forth. You go to KOAMnewsnow.com/vote, but right now we've got 47% saying it's going to change your plans a lot, and coming in second, 37% saying it changes nothing. Like I said, it's been back and forth all morning long. It's going to be an interesting one by the end of the show. Be back with more KOAM morning news for you right after this.
There are a lot of different ways that you can help during the holiday season, and especially in a year like 2020, helping the community and helping those in need is really more important than ever before. And this morning we're fortunate enough to be joined by Becca Williams, who is really, making it happen with the Foster Closet and the Foster Closet Christmas giveaway. So can you please explain for us, Becca, what the Foster Closet Christmas giveaway is?
Absolutely. It's a big party. We are doing it a little more COVID-friendly this year. We have a group of tremendous volunteers that donate a lot of time to making this event successful. So we have foster parents will RSVP and let us know the ages and genders of their foster child if they have anything special that's on their Christmas list. And we reach out to our generous community. We've assembled an Amazon list. I provided you with the link. And we ask the community to purchase those gifts for the foster kids. So when the foster parents come this year, generally we're open and we have a big party and snacks and crafts and everything in the foster closet. But to keep social distancing and our sanity a little bit, last year was pretty busy, we are just assembling the bags and doing it drive-through and sending crafts and snacks home with the foster families.
Well, I think anybody who has children could speak to this, but given that you have 9 of them, I feel like you might be the right person to ask this especially. What does having kids of your own do in terms of enhancing your perspective on something like foster care and kids who are in it and how you can help them?
I think it's important to know that kids in foster care are just kids. None of what has happened to them is their fault. Sometimes what happens to them is the choices of others. Sometimes what happens to them is just a whole lot of really bad luck. And in years like 2020, when people have lost their jobs and they can't pay their bills and they can't feed their kids, and then school's canceled and nobody's laying eyes on the kids, it's a really hard year for everybody. Having my own kids, I can't imagine somebody taking them and not knowing where they are and not knowing if they're safe and if they're loved. And by having the foster closet, we are able to come alongside and love on these kids and help the foster families. And ultimately, a lot of the stuff, when the kids go home, all of the stuff goes back with the children. So that helps the bio families not have to immediately provide more items, because kids sometimes have grown sizes and they don't have the money to do that.
Well, we really, really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us this morning. I know you have a class outside of the room right now. I'll let you get back to your class and your subbing duties, but we appreciate you taking the time to share the details of the Foster Closet with us. We're going to have all the information about the Foster Closet Christmas giveaway on our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. Just head to our morning show page, and we'll be right back on the KOAM Morning News after this.
Some breaking news this morning in Healthwatch. Another COVID-19 vaccine is showing promising results. Moderna announced this morning that its vaccine appears to be 94.5% effective. That's according to preliminary data from the company's outgoing study. A week ago, Moderna's competitor Pfizer announced its own COVID-19 vaccine, appearing about equally effective. Both companies are on track to seek permission for emergency use in the U.S. Great news. COVID-19 is making a record-shattering resurgence this fall. With colder weather and the holidays approaching, there's concern the coronavirus could spiral out of control if swift action is not taken now. Bafta Yimam reports from Washington, D.C.
Total coronavirus infections have surpassed 11 million in the U.S., 1 million of those diagnosed in just a week. Hospitalizations across the country are now at a record high of more than 69,000. Among the worst hotspots, North and South Dakota, which lead the nation in highest per capita deaths. Beginning today, bars and restaurants will be at half capacity in North Dakota, and there is a pause on the start of winter sports.
To be clear, these are statewide requirements, not simply recommendations.
North Dakota also now has a face mask requirement. It has become one of at least 27 states that have imposed new coronavirus restrictions on businesses and gatherings in the last 2 weeks. President-elect Biden's incoming chief of staff, Ron Klain, urged state and local governments on Sunday to take action.
All Americans and our state and local governments need to step up right now.
Klain also said when Biden is inaugurated, he will impose a nationwide mask mandate. CBS chief medical correspondent Dr. John LaPook.
Imagine if you had a football game and there were 50 different coaches. We need one national game plan, and then if people on a local level want to call some audibles, fine.
As hospitalizations surge, Pfizer's new vaccine is raising hope. But Dr. Anthony Fauci says even when a vaccine does become available, Americans should not let their guards down.
We've got to get the vaccine, it's got to be deployed, and we can't abandon fundamental public health measures.
Health experts continue to urge all Americans to rethink Thanksgiving plans now and either move gatherings outdoors or go online and virtual. Bafta Yimam, CBS News, Washington.
New York City's public schools, the largest district in the country, were at risk of shutting down today, but the city's mayor, Bill de Blasio, says since the positive test rate remains below 3%, they will remain open for now. That's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. We'll be right back.
A police chase in southwest Missouri ends with a suspect taking his own life. We'll have the latest. Plus, why students in Nevada will have to start wearing a mask in school, and a look at how the pandemic is hurting local charity organizations.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 6:30. I'm Tanya Bach. Coming up this half hour, SpaceX sends 4 more astronauts to the International Space Station. We'll have details and something to talk about on the KOAM News Now Facebook page. We're asking if the pandemic will change how you celebrate Thanksgiving this year. You can also vote in our Insta-Poll. Just visit KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. But first, a check on your forecast.
Let's orient ourselves here as we look off to the south-southeast from the tower cam outside the mothership, and then as we go straight up, it's not that faint with the naked eye, as you'll notice right in the middle of your screen right there. That is going to be a shot of Venus. Now, with the naked eye, you can also pick up Mercury right below it. It is absolutely gorgeous this morning, and here's why. Because the Skywatch Storm Tracker is coming off so clear and calm. As far as what we're looking at temperature-wise right now, 35 in Pittsburgh, 39 in Monette, and only 30 in Miami. Despite that, we avoid any freeze warnings on this Monday morning. And a live look from the Freeman Health System sky camera, where we sit at 37 degrees, but only a wind chill of 32. Officially, sunrise is going to be 6:59 over Joplin. It's a chilly one for the kiddos, not even 50 degrees by the time we get to 9 a.m., thanks in part to the jet stream with a much more north-south motion than what we saw at the end of last week when it was more straight west to east. But eventually, we'll get into the low 60s. Really right on par for where we'd anticipate being this time of year. But look at this warming trend we have on our hands. Mid-60s by the middle of the week, 70s to close out Thursday and Friday. Then we get some much needed rain for the weekend.
All right.
Boy, everything just came together there on live television.
It
That
sure
doesn't
did.
happen at the Skywatch Weather Center that
It
often.
sure did. I'm just looking forward to a great week, decent temperatures for this time of year,
Oh,
sunny skies.
we got updated cameras. We got Venus showing up. It all worked.
Yeah. All right. It should be fun.
I don't know, that's the way you start a work week.
Sounds great. Thanks, Michael. A 27-year-old Webb City man is dead after firing shots at officers before turning the gun on himself. The Jasper County Sheriff's Office says the incident began in Carterville around 2:20 p.m. when an officer attempted to stop a Hummer that had been reported stolen. The driver led police on a chase before crashing. Authorities say he then exited the vehicle and ran to another residence, accosting a citizen and taking his car keys. Speeding west on Highway 171, the suspect ended up driving the wrong way around the roundabout at Stone's Corner, causing a number of collisions. He eventually crashed near the intersection of Prairie Flower and 171, where he fled on foot and attempted to hide under a tractor trailer on the parking lot of a business. The suspect fired at officers as they began to surround him. He then fired a second shot, resulting in a fatal self-inflicted injury. He was pronounced dead at the scene. No officers or deputies were injured. The Nevada R5 School District will implement a mask mandate for grades 6 through 12 starting today. School officials made the announcement yesterday afternoon. All NHS students must wear masks before entering the buildings and will remain masked while in all classroom settings. Students who forget or lose their mask will be supplied with one. Any student who fails to comply with the mandate will be sent home immediately. November firearms season kicked off for many Missouri hunters this weekend, and that means processors like Cloud's Meats in Carthage are extra busy. And check out this line. Mike Cloud, owner of Cloud's Meats, shared this image saying that this is the first time they've had to stop taking deer this early. Cutting things off yesterday afternoon. He says the deer are large and there are lots of them. Cloud's is only taking what they can safely to refrigerate, but they're hoping to start taking more later on. Once they hit about 1,200 head, they'll stop taking deer to focus on beef and pork customers. COVID-19 is putting a financial strain on families, and while many nonprofits are trying to help, a new study released from the Better Business Bureau shows charities are struggling too. KOAM's Caitlin Shive has a look and more.
With the holidays coming up and the thought of giving back on people's minds, the Better Business Bureau conducted a study to see what giving looks like during the pandemic.
In terms of how it's changed from this time last year to right now, is we're seeing a lot more people who are actually donating to family and friends. So previously we saw big institutions that people were mainly more likely to donate money to, big charities, very well-known charities that are nationwide. Now people are looking for local people to help in the community because they're wanting to see their money actually going towards helping somebody right there in their neighborhood.
The pandemic has shifted the attitudes of many when it comes to giving back.
A lot of people are realizing that people are hard up right now, that times have been hard for a lot of people, for a lot of us out here, and so they're trying to have a local way that they can make a difference.
The study shows that from March through August of 2020, support for charities has fallen by 5%. The Joplin Salvation Army can attest to that. They say financial support has dropped.
We've had a decline in our donations through this year since we've noticed since July when we first arrived here that they have been down. And a lot of it is people not working or just not being able to donate as much as they used to.
The BBB's study says that security and trust is important right now when it comes to what people are willing to give and to who. Lieutenant Marty wants to remind the community that donations go back to the local area.
Anything that's donated to us stays in this community. Even if they specify a certain donation for a certain program, that money is guaranteed to stay in that program. We will not use it for anything else. That's one thing we are very good at doing. Wherever they donate goes to what they want to go for.
In Joplin, Caitlin Shive, KOAM News.
Salvation Army is also experiencing a decrease in bell ringers this year. That's a look at our top news stories. Coming up this half hour in the KOAM Morning News, the latest on the presidential transition.
Joe Biden plans to deliver remarks on the economy as he continues transitioning into power. I'm both to Imam in Washington with the president's stance on conceding.
Plus, will the pandemic change how you celebrate Thanksgiving this year? We let you weigh in our Something to Talk About, but first, it's 6:37.
60s and sunny on our Monday, warming up into the middle 60s by the middle of the week. How about a 70 by the time we finish it off? We'll be back with more KOAM Morning News and Nation Watch next.
Topping Nation Watch this morning, nearly 2 weeks after Election Day, President Trump still has not formally conceded, but President-elect Joe Biden is not waiting as he continues the transition process. Bafta Imam is in Washington with the latest.
President Trump briefly acknowledged Joe Biden won the 2020 election on Sunday, tweeting out he won because the election was rigged.
It was good actually to see President Trump tweet out that he won. I think that's a start of an acknowledgement.
But Mr. Trump later tweeted that he concedes nothing and falsely claimed that he won.
Donald Trump's Twitter feed doesn't make Joe Biden president or not president. The American people did that.
John Bolton, President Trump's former national security advisor, says Republicans need to tell their supporters, some who protested over the weekend, that the president lost.
If the Republican voters are only hearing Donald Trump's misrepresentations, it's not surprising that they believe it.
President-elect Biden is moving forward with the transition process without the president's help. Today, he and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris will deliver remarks on an economic recovery.
We need action during the lame duck. There's a lot of things that are going to have to wait until Joe Biden is president, but this is not one of them.
Dr. Anthony Fauci, who has worked with 6 administrations, says a smooth transition is necessary to fight the coronavirus.
It's almost like passing a baton in a race. You don't want to stop and then give it to somebody. You want to just essentially keep going.
The Biden team will start meeting with vaccine makers this week, but is not allowed to work with Fauci until the General Services Administration signs off on the transition process. Bofta Imam, CBS News, Washington.
The Trump appointee at the GSA has yet to ascertain the Biden victory, holding up federal funding and office space usually given to the incoming administration immediately following the election victory. On Friday, CBS News projected the final 2 states that had yet to be called, Georgia to President-elect Biden and North Carolina to President Trump. And that gives Joe Biden an electoral college victory of 306 to 232, the same margin Donald Trump beat Hillary Clinton in 2016. Well, 4 astronauts are on their way to the International Space Station after lifting off this weekend on a SpaceX rocket. U.S. Air Force Colonel Michael Hopkins is leading 2 Americans, physicist Shannon Walker and astronaut Victor Glover, as well as Japanese astronaut Soichi Noguchi on the 27-hour trip. Glover will become the first black astronaut to spend an extended period aboard the space station, half a year. That's a look at today's top national stories. Let's check back in with Michael with our Morning Talker.
This morning on the KOAM News Now Facebook page and our morning Insta-Poll asking if the pandemic is changing the way that you may celebrate Thanksgiving. I believe Corey Sprague comes in with the picture from Training Day. And Corey, if I'm wrong, forgive me, man. I'm not great at that. Megan Green Fordyce says, no, not at all, not changing plans. My grandma just got diagnosed with lung cancer, so holidays after this year are not promised. Megan, I wish you the best of luck for someone who can honestly and sincerely empathize with you right now. I wish your grandmother the best. Dave Sorek says, yes, unfortunately it will. Just the day-to-day uncertainty impacts planning, shopping, and preparation. May God have mercy. And Catherine Lewis Ortiz, we've cut down having a large number of people. However, delivering dinner to those in need, that is awesome. Jason Smith says, not changing my plans at all. Why start now? And Rocky Cunningham says, family, food, football, and a nap. Nope. No changes in our house. All right, as far as our morning Insta-Poll results go, it's been very interesting. This has been one of the closest I've seen jockey back and forth since we actually started the Insta-Poll a couple weeks ago. So we started out with Change Nothing being the leader. It's now 40%. A lot is at 43%. You got all morning long to chime in, and we'll keep updating these as we go. KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. We're going to come back, celebrate birthdays and anniversaries right after this.
We take this time to honor today's four-state hero, motor machinist mate first class Raymond Simpson, who served in the United States Navy from 1941 to 1945. He fought in the Pacific Theater of World War II. His hometown, Weir, Kansas. We are proud to salute Raymond Simpson, our four-state hero.
This is kind of cool because we've got a trio of 3-year-old birthdays. And we're going to start with our number one Chiefs fan. Take that, Dow Quick and Doug Hetty. Because Knox Lee, he's rocking the arrowhead on the jersey right there. Happy birthday to Knox as he celebrates the big number 3 in Webb City.
Ah, what a cutie then. Raylan Martin celebrating birthday number 3. That's a gorgeous picture there. Raylan in Stott City.
Now, over the weekend, that young man, Gunnar McQuiston, he celebrated his 3rd birthday. That's the finale of our trio of 3s. Gunnar, I hope you had a marvelous birthday. I want you to have a wonderful week, kid. He's in Pittsburgh.
All right, and Katie Martin celebrating birthday number 6 in McKean.
Well, I happen to know this family just a tad. Reed Walker celebrating the big, man, I tell you what. Oh, Reed, man, I could run a number of walkers through there. You could have just thrown that picture up. I'd be like, that's a walker right there. Happy 8th birthday to Reed. This is coming from Grammy and Pawpaw, my man. You go get him at St. Mary's today.
All right, we've got Emery Hilburn turning 8 years old in Seneca. Happy birthday to Emery.
That's a really neat picture right there. I like that. Chiron Kegler. That is so cool. Got a little bit of a, Chiron, that's got a little bit of a TV background. Your name does. And I love your shirt too. That is awesome, man. So K-Squared, he is now double digits, a big number 10, and a happy birthday in Elsmore.
Next up, Cade Rubel celebrating birthday number 12 in Anderson, Missouri.
And now we transition into the teenage years because Justice Cantrell celebrating his 13th birthday. Welcome to him, buddy. Justice is in Columbus.
All right, Bethany Merrick celebrating a big birthday this year, number 14 in Mountain Valley, Kansas.
Had a 16th over the weekend for that young man right there is Ethan Aldridge. He turned 16 in Joplin. Ethan, a happy birthday to you.
All right, Stone Nash celebrating the big 2-0 this year in Seneca. Got a special note here saying that he's currently serving in South Korea. Thank you for your service, Stone.
But I tell you what, hey, Mom and Dad and all your friends, you tell Stone that we say thank you for the service to our country. That was great. Sammy Madsen is celebrating number 24. Sammy's in Pittsburgh, and this one comes from Grandma Patty and Aunt Jennifer.
All right, we've got Allison J turning 40 this year in Independence.
So this is kind of cool. We're going to start with Paul Ballou, who is turning 61 in Fort Scott. And then we've got Dylan Ballou, who's turning 6. It just so happens that Dylan is Paul's grandson, and they get to share that birthday. How cool is that? So I got a feeling that Paul's birthday is probably directed toward Dylan. That's just gonna be my guess. Happy birthday, Dylan, and happy birthday to you, Paul. Don't want you to be forgotten, my man.
If you get to have a kid's birthday party, that means it.
That's right.
Yeah. And we've got Brenda Bruton turning double 6s this year. Happy birthday to Brenda in Joplin.
Debbie Wolf, a happy 67th birthday. Miss Debbie is in Lamar.
Roy Godin turning 8 years old.
I love it. Still sailing.
80 years old.
I know, I love the note. Still sailing.
That's ironic.
That's
because
great.
My paper actually did say 8. All right.
Great.
80 and still sailing. All right.
Candy Hale, a happy birthday to you. Candy is in Joplin.
And Jay Evans celebrating another year wiser in Columbus. Hope it's a great one, Jay.
Happy birthday, Jay. Diane Spencer. She's the one right there in the middle because she is surrounded by her loving family. Happy birthday to Diane and Galena.
All right. And Dustin and Lacey Reeves are celebrating their 2nd anniversary. You know, they may have only been married for 2 years, but they've known each other since kindergarten. So
That's
this
awesome.
is an extra sweet one. Yeah.
That is awesome. And Braden and Heather Peak, congratulations as they celebrate their 12th anniversary. Everybody out at medical lodges, practice your social distancing. You make sure you tell Penny Hamilton a happy birthday. Happy birthday, Penny. Linda Hance, turning 78. Happy birthday to Linda in Miami. And Nikki Reibel, she celebrates in Chanute. Reibel, excuse me, Miss Nikki. Nikki, this was with love from Mom and Dad. That better not be the one I think it is next.
I think it is, and I think you missed the picture again.
Better not.
Again.
Oh!
Aaron.
Aaron? Do better. Shirley, with love, because Shirley is part of our extended KOAM TV family. Shirley, happy birthday to you. And I will find out why there's no picture because I will be contacting your son directly. How about that? Vicki Johnson, a happy birthday in Cherokee. Maxine Ryan, happy birthday to Maxine in Crestline. And Sheila Muller. We're at Sheila, a screen all to yourself because I want you to have a marvelous birthday in Columbus. Happy birthday, happy anniversary to all. Here's Tanya Bach with a very important birthday announcement, and I'm coming to get you, AT.
All right, you can be a part of the KOAM Birthday Club. All you have to do is go to our website and sign up, and once you do, you'll get special deals from local businesses. Go to KOAMNewsNow.com and sign up for the KOAM Birthday Club today. Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. The Nevada R5 School District will implement a mask mandate for grades 6 through 12 starting today. School officials made the announcement yesterday afternoon. All NHS students must wear masks before entering the buildings and will remain masked while in all classroom settings. Students who forget or lose their mask will be supplied with one. Any student who fails to comply with the mandate will be sent home immediately. A 27-year-old Webb City man is dead after firing shots at officers before turning the gun on himself. The Jasper County Sheriff's Office says the incident began in Carterville around 2:20 p.m. when an officer attempted to stop a Hummer that had been reported stolen. The driver led police on a chase, causing multiple collisions and ultimately crashed his vehicle. The suspect fired at officers as they began to surround him. He then fired a second shot, resulting in a fatal self-inflicted injury. No officers or deputies were injured. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
Delightful Monday, plenty of sunshine. We will have a good southwest wind coming in at 10 to 15 miles per hour, gusting up to 25. Look at this warming trend that we have this week, all the way into the mid-60s by Wednesday and even the 70s before we end the work week.
All right, Jesse's joining us coming up here in our next half hour on Fox 14. What do you have for us?
Oh, we got a couple things. I got a list here. We got the Foster Closet. We're going to be teasing and talking about their Christmas giveaway. Plus, we've got an airline now shipping COVID tests to folks. Then you've got precautions put back in place at Walmart, and then Waffle House is getting into the beer game. So we'll have that and more coming up on Fox 14.
Also, Jesse, one of the closest Insta-Polls we've had since we opened this up, say a month ago. You go to KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. Our question this morning, how much will the pandemic change how you celebrate Thanksgiving this year? This thing's going back and forth. Stay with us. We'll update those results. Thank you very much, Nathan. You, my man, are awesome. I mean, look at that, 44% to 39%.
Close.
And every end of the spectrum. Want you to have a great, safe Monday. We'll do this all again tomorrow morning.
And we're going to do it again today at noon.